Soundstripe.
Yep, we're on anyway.
Cool, let's do it.
Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2. Hello and welcome to Hawk Talk, the podcast where we keep you up to date with everything that's going on at the Batemans Bay Football Club. It's a special edition this week. It's our first finals edition for 2025. Unfortunately, a bit of a mix of good and bad news, but it's not all bad, and we'll get into it later in the show. But I'm Joel Erickson. If you haven't listened to this podcast before, I'm not really important here. I don't know why I do this, but anyway. And that over there, or whichever side he's on, is the co-host. He's the football director at the club. He's operations manager, or whatever your title is, Mick. You can tell us later. But it's Mick Kenny. He's a legend of the club. How are you, Mick?
I'm very good, thanks, Jolie. You're selling yourself short there, mate. You're very important. This podcast doesn't happen without you, mate.
Yeah, well, possibly. And my claim to fame is being 2024 Clubman of the Year. So
there you go.
I'll give myself one for that.
Current Clubman of the Year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll probably be usurped by, I don't know, who's a good clubman?
There's a few about.
Give it to yourself, Mick. I feel like you deserve more awards than you already get. Hey, as I mentioned, it's a special edition. It's our first finals edition. We've played a game, mixed results on the weekend, which we'll get into later, but it's the best part of the year. I think you'd agree, Mick. Obviously any weekend you're playing footy is great, but just I think the feeling around the club, the feeling around just the sport in general when finals hits is amazing.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's something different. I don't know. The weather sort of warms up a little bit and the sun stays out for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's just a bit of a feel about it. And obviously our juniors, they played their last home and away game on the weekend, so they're into finals this week as well. So it's a good little buzz around the footy club, which is great.
Yeah, and it's just one of those times where every moment just means that little bit more to the players. And I think you can see it. Like last year's final series, you could argue that the seniors probably put together their best performance of the year in that prelim or in that qualifying final because they were just up for it. And I think that's just that you can't help it, not get up for a big game like that.
Yep, definitely, mate.
Yep.
Sure.
All right, let's go through results from the weekend. We've got 2 grades playing senior finals this year. Unfortunately, the reserve grade missed out on percentage in the end.
Yep.
But arguably, it's probably lucky for the rest of the competition that team didn't sneak their way in because I think if that...
I'll tell you a little something about that, Jolie. So
yeah, go on.
Cooma finished 4th. We finished 5th. We won 6 games for the year and Cooma won 3. But they had 3 forfeits, 2 against Cootamundra and 1 against ADFA when they have their training camp. So I think we were robbed, mate. I think we should have been playing finals footy, but
that is pretty rough.
And yeah, we had a washout round when we were meant to play Cootamundra. So bit of bad luck for us. And Cooma went out and absolutely destroyed Woden on the weekend in the elimination final as well. So they've won their way through to a prelim off of the back of winning 3 home and away games. So it's not a bad effort from them.
You can't begrudge them, can you, if they're going to go in and win a big game like that? But yeah, that's pretty rough. I suppose though, sometimes you in situations like that, you just got to look back and go, well, you know what? If we'd had a healthier list, or if some blokes had committed a bit earlier in the season, we would have gotten a couple of extra wins. And this is the moot point. So it's a bit of an odd one, but hey, that is bad luck. But still a very good team. They're still technically premiers, and they will be for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, correct.
So yeah, bit of bad luck there for the boys, but I mean a fantastic season. Pretty typical Seahawks season, let's be honest. Started slow. You started getting some troops back in the middle of the year. Came home with a wet sail. Unfortunately, this year it just wasn't quite there.
Yep.
but it's still a pretty impressive way to back up the premiership year. So good job from the Rezzies to at least even give themselves a chance at playing finals in the end. And as you've mentioned, probably a little unlucky not to get there.
Yep.
The women. Let's talk about the women. They took on Gugong in a qualifying final on the weekend.
Yep.
And that was a pretty lopsided affair, unfortunately, for the Seahawks. Gugong won that one 8-11-59 to 2-2-14. Mate, this Gugong team looks like a pretty powerful unit.
Yeah, they're pretty good, mate. Obviously, yeah, I don't know if I've seen them play this year, Gugong at all, but yeah, really impressed with them the way they went about it. Our girls obviously were pretty undermanned. We had a couple of key players out. Obviously Claudia Hannon missing. Jess Williams had an exceptional year. She's overseas, and Gabby Johnson is away at the moment as well. So arguably three of their better players out doesn't help the cause. But I thought the first quarter, there was probably a bit of a breeze going to the Seahawks end, and I reckon we probably would have had more inside 50s than Gugong in that first quarter, but we just couldn't capitalise. And yeah, it just seemed to be going in, and then it was coming out just as quick as it was going in, and then there was just two passages of play where Gugong just took it from one end to the other and kicked two goals. And I think you sort of felt it, although they were only, what were they, 7 points down at quarter time. I think going against that breeze in the second quarter, I think when you were in a bit of trouble, and that was sort of ultimately where all the damage was done in that second quarter. They kicked
Yeah.
two goals
So
and done.
let's look through that second quarter because that is where the game was won and lost.
Yep.
It was 13-6 at quarter time, but it was 43-6 at half time. So basically banged on five unanswered goals. It was actually 4-6, but for all intents and purposes, five unanswered goals.
Yep.
I mean, that's a pretty hard quarter to come back at any level of football.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, mate, that was the difference in the game. And I think they just used the conditions a lot better. Full credit to our girls. I thought there was, some big efforts. I thought Lux in the ruck, she was exceptional. I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen too much of the girls' games this year, but yeah, she was unreal on the weekend, really physical in the ruck. Thought Jess Kemp in the middle was really good, as well as, your usual suspects, Shan White, Taya Hancock. They battled all day, so they definitely had a crack to girls, and I won't be too discouraged by that. Obviously, having beaten Woden twice this year already, getting to play them at home in a home prelim, and fingers crossed, hopefully, if a couple back, I'm not too sure where the squad's at for this weekend, but hopefully, yeah, if they can get a couple of girls back as well, it's going to help with the cause.
Yeah, you mentioned four names there: Lux, Jess Kemp, Shannon White, and Taya Hancock, and they were four of the six that were judged best by the coaches on the weekend. The other two were Emma Hunt and Bray Reid, two 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 of the players who have been around this setup for quite a while. So, I guess the beauty of a top two finish is that you get a second chance, and they're going to get a second chance. You mentioned it before; it's going to be a home prelim against Woden. It seems that they've beaten a couple of times this year. They'll take confidence out of that, and you'd hope that the crowd's going to be pretty big on the weekend to cheer the girls home.
Yeah, obviously we've got juniors on this week, mate, with them kicking off. I think majority of our junior grades will be in action at Pambula on Saturday, but obviously with no reserve grade and no first grade, all the senior men will be down there supporting the girls, and yeah, hopefully we can do our part and play our bit, and hopefully get them across the line into another grand final.
So give us some information about game day on the weekend because there will be three games, but only one Batemans Bay team will feature. So
Yep.
give us the times and who's going to be playing on the weekend.
Yeah, mate. So just your usual time slots. So it'll be 10 o'clock for the women's, which is obviously Seahawks versus Woden, and then the reserve grade fixture will be at 12. That's Cooma versus Molonglo. And then in first grade, that'll be 2 o'clock. Here's Woden versus Adfa. So obviously good for us. Like we were talking off air before, Jolie, we get to us senior guys get to go down there and not travel very far, and we get to watch the whole game and see who we're going to be playing next week in the big dance.
Yeah, and look, I'll say this on the record: if anyone's got nothing else to do on a Saturday, prelim football is some of the best football you'll watch it's two teams that are guaranteed to be desperate. There are no second chances from this point forward. And we know that Woden and Adfer have been very, very good teams for quite a few years now. They played an absolutely ripping prelim last year. I don't see any reason why this won't be a similar, very, very quality matchup this year.
Yep, no, definitely, mate.
Let's talk about the seniors. The seniors who went through the season undefeated, arguably had their biggest test on the weekend, but scraped through, got the win. This was 6-7 43, 6-4 40, beat Woden in that qualifying final, which means massive congratulations to the senior men. They've made their third straight grand final, which is a massive achievement. Obviously, hoping to go one better than last year. But Mick, let's talk about this game a bit more in depth, because obviously you've gone through a season undefeated. You've had quite a few lopsided wins, and even the games where they've seemed close, you've had generally a good kind of 20 to 30 point gap. You were trailing this game by double digits in the fourth quarter, and then I think it was late goals to, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was late goals to Alex Makey and JT that got you over the line, Jared Thompson. How was that fourth quarter for your blood pressure?
Yeah, it wasn't great, Jolie, that's for sure. But it's yeah, I don't know. It's funny, mate. We're a really process driven football team, and even talking to the guys after the game, and had a good chat with Blackers last night, and even he said, look, in the last quarter, I never felt that we were going to lose. I still felt confident in our process and everything that we were going to get it done, and yeah, I think it was probably just tough game of footy. It was. Like, we probably jumped them early. I think we kicked the first two goals of the game. Then they pegged us back. It wasn't too much difference. Actually, I think they were in front at quarter time, and then the second quarter we hit back, ended up going to the big break at in front, and then they come out firing in the third quarter. The third quarter was just physical, really aggressive game, and I think our inside 50 numbers were pretty poor for that third quarter. They just really dominated that quarter, and um, yeah, we sort of kept a lid on it at three-quarter time. There's a few guys that are a little bit antsy and whatnot. But yeah, we obviously just went back to reiterating around our process, and yeah, making sure that everyone was still on the same page. And I flicked the magnets a little bit, made a couple of little changes that I thought would help us in the long run. And they kicked the first goal of the last quarter, which yeah, they led for 10 points for about an eternity. It was, yeah, felt like a long period of time. And we were up and about the whole last 10 minutes. We were just, yeah, we got bulk inside 50s and couldn't capitalise. And then there was an Alex Makey goal with about 3 minutes to go or 4 minutes to go, a Nate Caddy style goal, Jolie. So, his back was facing the goals and he kicked it over the top of his head. And Harry Shannon told me that it was sailing through for a point, and with about 2 meters to go, this big gust of wind just blew it straight through the middle.
We'll take it.
And then, and with about a minute on the clock, yeah, JT was in the goal square. I don't know what he was doing down there. Obviously, been playing on a half-back flank all year, but yeah, I'm glad that he was. That's for sure. And just kicked it off the ground, and did a big Tom Papley celebration. Ran the length of the field with about a minute to go, and yeah, it was still up in the air. Woden won the centre clearance with about 40 seconds to go. Nath Blackburn pushed him down back, and he took a couple of really big intercept marks in that last probably 40 seconds for us that ultimately, yeah, won us the game. So, yeah, it was good, mate. I think they're the games that you get up for. And, the guys really enjoyed that. There's been games where we've won by 150 points or whatnot, but, we're all about the challenge. And, that's why we've obviously got this vision around going up next year, and that's why we've pushed so hard to go up next year, because we want that challenge. And yeah, it was definitely welcomed on Saturday, and Woden brought it. It was an excellent game of footy.
I got to say, there's not many guys at the club who love a goal more than JT. Especially, and I could imagine, like, as soon as I knew it was him that kicked that winning goal, I knew what his reaction would be, and I knew it was going to be some big wheeling away, fist in the air. But I mean, for a guy who's given so much to the club for the past few years, I mean, if anyone deserves a game-winning goal in a qualifying final, it's someone like JT. So um, let's talk about the result. Obviously, it's a great result. You're through to a grand final. It must be really pleasing as a coach. You spoke about the processes, but it must be really pleasing to see this group of players kind of not. There was obviously no quit. Like I know 10 points doesn't seem like much, but in the fourth quarter of a big finals game, any deficit can seem like a mountain. That must have been so pleasing to see this team continuously fight and continue to fight, even though, as you said, things weren't necessarily going their way once they got inside 50 for those kind of last 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, to be fair, like no knock on the team last year, and I was obviously part of that team, but I feel like there was times where we'll probably flat track bullies last year, where if things were going well, then we were going really well. But if things were going tough, there were occasions that we sort of went into our shell and we probably self-destructed a little bit. Whereas this year, Jolly, I think we've just got a totally different attitude around it. I think we're obviously aware of what happened last year, and we've sworn black and blue that we're not letting that happen again. And I just think even on the weekend, like you say, we weren't really driven by the scoreboard, and I was probably making a few moves on the whiteboard that wasn't reflecting the scoreboard either. It was more so just me doing what I felt was right, and the boys backed me 100%. So no, I think it's just the whole attitude, mate. Around we've probably turned from, although it probably sounds funny, but we probably don't feel like we're the hunted. We've got the attitude where we're still the hunter, and I know that we haven't lost a game all year, so we're well and truly the hunted. But we've just got this ferocious attitude that we're not going to give up, and we're going to keep fighting till the final siren.
Do you think that attitude can be explained as simply as this is a group coming off a grand final loss rather than a premiership?
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely that. I think that loss probably helped mature a few guys. I think they probably look at it a little bit different now. Obviously coming off, we've had really, really successful team for a long period of time, Jolly. So obviously, 2022 we were minor premiers as well, and we didn't win. Didn't lose too many games. 2023, obviously, we won, and then last year I think we only lost the 2 or 3 games or whatever it was. So yeah, I think it's just given guys a different way to look at it. Not that we were arrogant or anything like that, or cocky or anything like that, but I think it's in the back of our mind now that we can't take it lightly anymore, because that hurt way too much last year, and we don't want that to happen again.
And I just want to point out as well that your 2023 premiership came off the back of that really gut wrenching loss against Gugong in that prelim, which we've spoken about on this podcast before as probably one of the lower points in some of our players' careers, which was probably now gazumped by last year's grand final loss. Let's be honest, but
Yep.
there's definitely a galvanizing element to taking a heartbreaking loss like that, and I think it can often, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mick, but I think it can often come down to something as simple as the players have the ability to just to find that extra 5% when they need to, because they're just that little bit more driven. Would you say? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you're right, mate. And I mean, obviously, we're not over the line yet either. So we've
Oh
we've
yeah,
still
yeah,
got we've still got one more game to
of
to
course.
go. But I just feel that the whole attitude, mentality of the whole group, is a lot different to what it was last year. And we've just got this real, I guess, dog, or this bit of hunger about us that was a little bit different to last year.
Yeah, and look, this is going to sound really mean to last year's group, and it's not intending this to be this way at all. But I was sitting there watching the live scores on the weekend, and you were down by 10 points in the last quarter, which was a situation we found ourselves against Woden in a few times over the mountain last year. Close games in the fourth quarter, they had their noses in front, and we just couldn't pull them in. And I can't help but think last year's group probably doesn't win that game, even though it's very similar in terms of personnel. But that's probably the big difference where I go, this is a little bit different to last year's group. Similar talent, just a bit more driven. Um, Next question for you, Mick, from a coaching perspective is, I think last year we talked about earlier that qualifying final, where last year they had to come to the Hanging Rock, and Batemans Bay they belted Woden. I think it was to the tune of about 75 points or something like that.
Yep.
This year, obviously, very different. You've had a really tight win in that qualifying final to go through the grand final. Do you think that helps having had that challenge rather than having kind of like what might be seen as an easy progress to the grand final?
Oh, time will tell, Joey, I guess. But I'm glad we're not playing this week. That's for sure, because it was just a bash and crash. Like it was a war, mate. Like it was the most physical game I think I've seen of local footy. It was just I was glad I wasn't out there. That's for sure. But yeah, it was, mate. It was physical, and talking to blokes last night, they've got bark off them everywhere, and Sebi Geary looks like he's gone 9 rounds against a ride-on lawnmower, and there's a few guys just look really dinged up. But yeah, so I'm definitely glad we're not playing this week. So I definitely think the week off will help. But yeah, as for the easy win and the close game, I mean, I guess in hindsight, I'm hoping it's a better omen for us. But like you said before at the start of the podcast, I think that, that qualifying final last year is probably the best game that we played last year as a team. And then fast forward 2 weeks was probably the worst game that we played, was the grand final. So, yeah, it's grand finals, mate. They're funny things. So it's all about turning up, preparing the best that you can, making sure that you're ready to go. And we will do that over the next 2 weeks and give ourselves every chance.
I love that you've said how physical that game against Woden is as well, because traditionally, when Woden's up and running and playing their best footy, you're going to be in a war. They're gonna bash and crash you on the inside. They're going to hurt your midfielders. They're going to win that contested footy and then just build off that. So the fact that you've explained that as a war and one of the most physical contests, while still coming out on top against a team like Woden, did it feel like you almost had? Did you feel like Woden were at their best on Saturday?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping, but I think they've. I'm not going to say it, but well, I will now. But I think they might have played their grand final because they were literally like they played unreal. It was a great game of footy to watch, and after the game, I went over and spoke to their coach Ricky Jordan, and I just said to him, I said, mate, that's an unbelievable game of footy, and he was, of the same. Said exactly the same, and yeah, it was, mate. It was just a really tough, honest game of footy. Low scoring, just really physical. So yeah, we'll wait and see, mate. But I'm hoping that they've played their best game.
It'll be interesting to see this weekend, I guess, the impact that physical style of footy has had on them when they're just facing like a generic kind of 6 7 day break. Interestingly enough, the other final on the weekend was very tight. That was a 3 point win to ADFA.
Yeah.
So potentially two teams who have had pretty hard slogs last weekend. So I mean, sometimes at this stage of the year as well, sometimes just the fitter team pulls through, the healthier team.
Yeah.
Following on from that, based on what you've seen from Woden and ADFA this year, do you have a preferred matchup that you're willing to admit to on a public forum?
Oh, probably not yet. I think it'll be interesting to see them go toe to toe on Saturday. I mean, we played. Well, I think Woden was. I mean, I think ADFA was the best team that we've played all year until the weekend. So, I think during the home and away rounds, I think that ADFA were the best team we played all year. Probably closely followed by Woden and Yass. But I think after the weekend's game, that was the toughest game of footy that we've had all year. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, mate. It's going to be a really good game of footy. ADFA, really physical football side as well. Like you said, really fit, really physical. So, yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how that pans out. But, yeah, I don't really know if I have a preference. I think they're both going to be really hard. Both very different teams as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll just obviously dissect them a little bit more this Saturday and see what happens.
But if I know anything about the way you coach football, Mick, is that your messaging probably will not change an awful lot no matter who you're going to be playing next week.
No, not really. We will have certain plans around certain things that they do and certain players that they'll have, but yeah, like you say, mate, really process driven. We focus on what we can control, and then hopefully that's good enough.
Yeah. Let's talk about your players from the weekend. Obviously, you've already mentioned it's a real physical game. You must have been super proud of the way they stuck in. But the thing that excites me the most here, looking at the playing list and looking at the statistics and your best players list, is that Kyle O'Malley, Cyril as he's affectionately known around the club, um, appears to be hitting some of his best form at the perfect time of the season. He kicked 2 goals on the weekend. He was number one in your best player list. Obviously, guy's been very important to this football club for a long time, but it's you need guys like him playing their best footy at this time of the year, don't you?
Yeah, definitely, mate. And to be fair, there's a whole heap of them that are, probably our best few players that are playing their best footy. I mean, Michael Thane's had a ripping year, same as obviously Jared Thompson. Bit of a positional change, but it seems to have just rejuvenated his career a bit. And I mean, Buster Ware's kicked what 77, 78 goals for the year. And like you said, mate, Cyril back to his best. Another guy who is in career best form, who was exceptional on the weekend, is Cal McDonald. A very, very, very underrated footballer. Undersized, plays at fullback, centre half back, and he's never beaten. And he was huge on the weekend as well.
I got to say, like Cal, when you step up to first grade next year, Cal's going to be one of those guys who does not look out of place at all.
Yeah.
Um, you're right. Last year was the same. He did his job. He went about it the right way. Was very rarely beaten, if ever. And just a solid guy to have around the group as well. He's pretty no fuss. He's pretty. He's just one of those guys. You know, you're going to get him two trainings a week. He's going to be there. He's going to be there on time in his little Sydney Swan shorts that he wears if he's still wearing them this year. Yeah, obviously a very impressive player and great to see him playing well at this time of year. But I want to talk to you about Sebastian Geary, Seba. Like the definition of an infield, like an inside mid. Let's be honest, he can bash and crash with the best of them. He's got the look for it, the blazing red hair, and he's got the stocky short stature as well. He won't like me saying that, but what have you made of his game this year? Because obviously those inside balls are your engine room, arguably the most important position on the field in a lot of ways. What have you made of his year?
Yeah, I think he's had an exceptional year, mate. Definitely the best year he's had at our footy club, and a guy who's really excited about next year as well. So, yeah, he come to come to pre. He won't mind me saying this, but he come to pre-season. He was pretty sloppy. He hadn't been doing much work, but he's in really good nick now. And like you said, he's had a great year. And to be fair, he's probably he hasn't had that reliance of being that inside bull that you're talking about. I think Thaney's actually upped his inside game this year,
Yep.
uh, adding Josh Mulrooney into that middle as well. Takes a bit more pressure off, obviously, Lucas White, who's a bit of an enforcer in there for us as well. So I feel like we've got a good mix of inside mids there now, and probably just helps take pressure off each other a little bit more.
Lucas White, you mentioned him. He was also part of your best players, your best six on the weekend. Guy who just another one of those guys who kind of goes about his work on the field quietly. Doesn't necessarily go about it quietly off the field. If anyone knows Lucas, he's definitely he's a character, but he's played halfback flank in his time. He's played midfield. Just it seems like you've got a team full of players who can almost chuck in any position, and they're going to go out and do a job for you.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, mate. Like I said, we flicked the magnets around a little bit on the weekend, and and just tried a few things to, help get us that advantage. And I think Blackers was one of those. We at half time we sort of pulled the trigger with Harry Shannon back from his trip overseas, so we had a bit more height, so we threw him back and took a couple of intercept marks for us. Did Blackers and we rolled the dice a couple of times. We threw Munners up forward, threw Morris Absalon up forward for a little bit, just to throw a few things off guard. But I think you're right, mate. I think we've got a lot of guys who can play in a lot of different positions, which makes your job easier as a coach because if things aren't going that well, then you've got a few little tricks up your sleeve that you can try a few things as well.
Mm. Let's talk about Mo because I mean he's a guy. I think I mentioned earlier this year in the podcast. He's a guy I love the fact that he's playing first grade this year. He's part of kind of that younger brigade we've got at the club because he's not. He's what 21, 22. He'd be lucky to
Uh,
be 22. I
I
think
think he's only
he might even be
20,
younger.
20, mate. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, got like oodles of talent. That kid. It seems to really have locked down a spot in that back line as well.
He has, mate. I don't know if that back six has changed all year. I would love to go back and have a look at the stats. I reckon that back six have nearly played, if not every game, most games together as a back six. So, but yeah, I think it helps having a lot of experience around him as well. Obviously him at centre half back, but um, you've obviously got JT right alongside him, who's very experienced, very smart footballer. And then you've even got Backo, Cal Mack, Munners, 20. Those guys have all played, over 100 games for the footy club. So, he's going into a pretty steady or settled back line. And, he's brought something a little bit different as well. So he's got that obviously really good leap.
Mm.
And he's probably got a bit more of a license than everyone else. He can sort of chime in and take some good intercept marks as well. But had a ripping year, mate. Another guy who's really excited about next year and really excited to see, how he can go with a big preseason and obviously coached under Sammy Martin next year.
And let's talk about the rest of the youth brigade because you've had quite a few guys debut this year. You've had Alex Makey, Cal Dawn's had he's featured quite a bit this year. Tully Ware obviously had a fantastic year in the ruck. Um, I guess how much faith or how much trust are you going to put in those younger guys on grand final day? Um, I'm assuming, if I know anything about you, that you're going to probably treat it just like any other game. Their role is their role.
Yeah, mate. Yep. We've been preparing for it all year. So they all know their jobs and obviously been lucky enough to coach those three guys that you just mentioned there. Obviously got to coach them last year, which gives me a little bit of an advantage, I guess, having known how they play and have a really good relationship with those three guys. But all three of those guys haven't looked out of place all year. Especially Alex has probably been in and out with playing Rising Stars footy as well. But Tully Ware, exceptional. Obviously losing Tegs at the start of the year, we were a bit sceptical how we're going to go, losing him and Jade Eaton and Tommy Holder, so losing a fair bit of height. And Tull's pretty much just he's been the Lone Ranger in the ruck. He obviously missed the game on the weekend, but we called up, Big Jake Prince, who come in and done the job for us. And hopefully we can get Tully right so he's ready to go for grand final day. Like you say, mate, Cal Dawn had another exceptional year as well and gives us something a little bit different, gives us a little spark up forward, very light on his feet, very agile. And then he comes into the middle and gives us a few minutes in there, which is, gives us a lot of pace around the stoppage.
Yeah, got to double digits as a small forward this year in terms of kicking goals. So, I mean that's a pretty good season no matter what level you're playing at. Mate, look, I think we've probably analysed the win and look forward to the grand final as much as we possibly can. So, I just wanted to say congratulations to you as well, Mick. Obviously, being a coach is a tough gig, but you've now got you've got your 2022 minor premiership, you've got your 2023 premiership. You're involved last year with that great team. You've coached this team to another grand final berth this year. Um, Fantastic job and congratulations. And I think I probably speak for the entire club when I say that to you as well. Um, But look, I guess what does the next week look like for you? Do you think after you find out um, who you're going to be playing? Is it just going to be your typical Tuesday, Thursday training, maybe a bit of game planning here and there? What does it look like for you as a coach?
as a coach.
Yeah, as a coach.
Yeah, I think we've got plans in place already. So we had a pretty light trainer night last night, and obviously a fair few guys dinged up, so we went pretty light. We'll go a little bit more. We'll go a bit harder tomorrow night. Saturday we'll have a little bit of a kick and a bit of a run Saturday morning before the girls play, and then obviously have a bit of team bonding. We'll watch the other game on Saturday. Tuesday that'll probably be our main session of the week, mate. So we'll tailor a session to around who we're playing. Like we mentioned before, Woden and Adfa, two very different football sides. So not that we'll tinker our game plan too much, but it's probably just identifying things that they do really well. Um, and for us working on those areas that we can, if we can't get on top in those areas, that we can at least even it across the board and then go to work on our strong areas. And then Thursday will be, really light, be a probably, 45, 50-minute session. And then we're heading out to the Steam Packet Hotel for a pizza night on Thursday before the grand final. So
How
that's,
good?
uh, that's coaching week, mate. I won't tell you what's involved from a operations manager perspective because I've got a very busy week ahead of me, especially if the girls are big.
Mate, you're the busiest man in Batemans Bay.
This time of
Now
year, I
before
am. Yeah.
yeah, before we wrap up for this podcast as well, I feel like I need to address something. All year I've been saying that if the boys made the grand final, I'd be on the plane down there. Look, I won't bore you with the details. Mick knows them, and Mick knows I'm genuine. But unfortunately, life has gotten in the way, and I won't be there. Sorry to disappoint the two people that probably wouldn't mind seeing me there, but yeah, unfortunately, I won't be making it. I've got a very good reason why, and Mick can tell folks if he wants to, but um, I do feel bad. I would have loved to have been there. So please don't hate me too much if you don't see me on Saturday next week. So
I'm sure.
yeah,
I'm sure that'll be fine, mate.
yeah, I think it will be. I think most of the players are like, who's this bloke?
Should we maybe touch on the Rising Stars as well?
Yeah,
They got their last games this weekend
yeah,
in the washout round against Ainsley, I think from round 6. So they're heading up there for their final game. They played Tuggeranong at Hanging Rock on Sunday, and both teams unbelievable day of footy from what I've heard. I wasn't around. We had the Oz Kickers up at Manuka Oval on Sunday, so I had my hands full up there. But I think the boys got beat by 25 points against Tuggeranong, and from all reports, I think there was about a 10-minute patch in the third quarter that probably cost them the game. The rest, they were really competitive and probably on top for a fair bit of it as well. So well done to obviously our men's Rising Stars this year. A bit of a hard slog, but I think there's plenty of light at the tunnel for that group. Not too many guys that will go up next year, so that core group will stay together. And I know that they'll have a really big preseason and they'll come out firing next year.
that
And then
that team will be winning games before we know it.
yeah, 100%, mate. They're they've only the last 4 weeks they've gotten better and better every week. So plenty to build off and take into next year. And then obviously our women's Rising Stars, first year, unbelievable season. I think they've had 3 wins and the 1 draw.
Yeah,
And they've pushed teams. I think Belconnen is sitting second and they lost twice to them by 4 points. So traditionally a team that doesn't travel very well. So I think if they can, get that commitment up the hill, I don't think they lose too many players next year as well. So, I reckon they're in for a really big year as well. And well done to obviously Ant Freya and Damon Connick for coaching those 2 grades. It's a big job giving up your Sunday, especially those guys have got kids that are still playing juniors, so they're committed to Saturdays and Sundays. So well done to both those blokes.
exciting times at the club. It's great to see such a strong junior setup, and mainly due to the work that of a lot of people at the club. Let's be honest, over the past decade or so. I don't. I might be waxing lyrical here, but the club's probably the healthiest it's been in a long, long time. In terms of those pathways. So, congratulations to all the players involved in those grades as well. I know some of the. If I remember what I was like as a teenage boy, I reckon some of those lads are probably getting a little bit sick of all the losing. But I hope they can see the bigger picture and realise that they're improving every week, and those results will come if they just keep sticking to it. And I mean, obviously, the girls 3 wins in an inaugural season is fantastic. So, um, yeah, brilliant way to end this particular podcast. Um, you'll probably be hearing this one after the prelim. So you know when listening to this, you probably know who the Batemans Bay Seahawks are going to be playing in next week's grand final, and hopefully you know that the women's team is playing in the grand final as well. But um, just the nature of Lucas White and his laziness getting these things out of the way, to be honest. I'm calling him out. I'm calling him out. We did our one with Campy 2 weeks ago, and as of recording, still not up. Lucas, what are you doing, mate? Hey, Mick, we'll probably do one more podcast before the end of the year, post grand final. But it's been another successful year for the Hawks. It's been another great year on the podcast. I've had a lot of fun. Um, yeah, let's hope. Hopefully, the listeners are still keen, and we're just going to come up with some new ideas for next year, mate. We keep
Yeah,
promising
I
that
think
these.
there's still plenty of listeners, mate. Still get plenty of messages and phone calls around when the next one's going to be out. So yeah, I think next year, hopefully, if we can free up a little bit more time between yourself and obviously me, we can yeah, get it rolling a bit more consistent basis. And like you say, we might add a few extra things. But I think going to the video this year's been a hit too, mate. Everyone's been enjoying that.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's probably because they're looking at your beautiful face the whole time, mate. But there's going to be some teething pains this year. It's the first time in Seahawks history we've done a podcast where the hosts live 15 hours away from each other. So we'll line out those kinks, and then the good news is this year, because I'm not there, I won't be accosted by any drunk human beings at the grand final after party telling me all the things we need to improve about the podcast. So that's positive. I'm not going to drop any names here, but that's a positive. Hey, Mick,
Oh,
look, good luck for next week. Good luck for the grand final. For everyone listening at home, it's been another great episode. We hope to see you next time. We hope to have some really great news about premierships next time we're on this podcast. But until then, we'll see you next time, and go Hawkies.
thanks, Jolie. Go
Cheers,
Hawkies.
guys.